this afternoon or morning webinar with Team Sweden USA to share some of the latest insights and activities that we're doing, but also listen to you companies and other participants on what are your challenges when it comes to the US at the moment, and is there any specific need or support that you need? And I'm not saying that Team Sweden can help you with everything, but it's important for us to know what your needs are and then see if we can have a possibility to support in some way. I think I probably know all of you, but I'm just going to quickly present myself. My name is Anna Reiby, and I work for SweetCare Foundation. We're a semi-governmental organization collaborating with the Ministry of Health and Social Affairs in Sweden, but of course also with all the other Team Sweden actors like Business Sweden, the Embassy, the Consulate General, and we're also happy to have the National Board of Trade with us. Yeah, and I don't know, should we, the ones who are going to speak, just present themselves and say hi? It might be nice to know who all of us are. So Lotta, would you like to?
Sure. Hi, I'm Charlotte Kramer with Embassy of Sweden in Washington, D.C. with the Trade Economic Affairs Department. And I cover life science also as part of the portfolio here.
And then the Consulate General. Would you like to?
Sorry. Hi, my name is Juni Förning-Förin. I cover life science, among other things, here from New York. I will not be speaking today, though, but really nice to have you on here.
And then we have two representatives from Business Sweden.
I can introduce myself. Sorry, I'm Jessica Connolly. I'm the head of the Chicago office for Business Sweden, and also one of the co-leads for our life science vertical together with my colleague Abigail. So I'll hand over to you.
Great to meet you, everyone. My name's Abigail Richardson. I'm a senior project manager at Business Sweden, also co-lead of the life science platform here at Business Sweden, and I sit on the west coast of the US over in San Francisco. Great to meet you all.
And then we have the National Board of Trade.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Felinda Wennerberg, and I'm lead on US trade relations at the National Board of Trade, Sweden. Happy to be here.
And my name is Annika Widell, and I work with Barriers to Trade at the National Board of Trade. And I'm very happy to be here in this meeting.
Great, it's great to have you here, and it's great to have all the other participants listening in as well. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was we had a very interesting meeting at the National Institutes of Health and their Office of Technology Transfer. We have SweetCare has a EU-funded project trying to help companies that want to enter the US market. So we had a business mission to the Washington, D.C. area in September, and we met with the embassy, of course, and then Charlotte joined us to this meeting. After that, we went on to biohealth forum in Maryland, in Rockville, and also had a program there and met with all the stakeholders that support companies locating in Maryland. So if you have any, if you're interested in that part of the US, please let me know, because I think we have really good context both in Maryland and Virginia after that trip. But maybe of more general interest is that meeting that we had at NIH. And I'm just going to share some of the, my insights, and Lotta, you will add anything that I don't mention. So, of course, that's a huge organization. It's several institutes working with research and innovation in the area of health. And I understand that they are in pretty good shape, even though, I mean, government funding and so on has been a little bit erratic, perhaps, to some government agencies, but they seem to be continuing their work. And I thought that this Office of Technology Transfer was quite open to collaborations. Their main task is to support innovations that can better the health of the American people. And if they are interested in something, and they have a lot of resources to evaluate technologies and innovations, and if they find something really interesting, then they can give a lot of support. They can support, for example, with pilot studies or clinical trials. They won't buy your product to be used in a trial, but they can provide staff and funding for that. And they were really interested in listening to the company's innovations. So we had the short pitches, and they were really helpful on giving feedback on the innovation per se, but also pointing towards other actors within NIH or other institutions that could be a good match. And apart from that office, we also had a representative from the Department of Defense. They have a Defense Health Authority agency, which is quite large. They have a lot of clinics in the US and abroad, but they're also interested in innovations that can have dual use within on the civilian side, but also the military side. And I understood it as they could support in discussing how a product could be developed to better fit the military side, because they need to be robust and things like that. So I think we have a good contact there as well. And then maybe Lotta, you want to talk about this laboratory network.
Well, it's just I think we're all of us who attended there were pretty impressed by the size of this. I mean, they have the Veterans Administration, for instance, has 1,500 hospitals around the country. DHA, Department of Health agency, I mean, they also have hundreds of hospitals and also research centers. So it's really large, and they can help with doing needs assessment if there's a technology or knowledge gap. So you can do collaborations around that, and usually it's shared effort and cost. But then the industry partner would then take it to marketplace and have the IP ownership. And I think Svika can maybe after this there are some links we can share that could be good for if you're not familiar with this platform. And you can also, of course, look up technology transfer at NIH and find it. But you can also search for what technologies are available for financing, and also each lab has its own site. So there's a lot of information there. But I think that could be something to follow up and for you to explore.
Yeah, I agree. And can I just add that they sometimes do research on their own as well. So I think the Gardasil, this vaccination against cervical cancer, is originated there. But they also mentioned one innovation, which is birdseed that is resistant to or not interesting for rats. They found out that that birds don't feel the heat from chili peppers. So they developed bird seeds that contain a lot of chili pepper flavor, chili pepper. So then the rats won't eat that. So I thought that I would like to have that. It was just fun to hear that. Okay, but do you have anything that you'd like to add, Charlotte, from the embassy side before we go on to Business Sweden?
No, I think we're going to cover a lot during this session, so let's move on with the program. Yes.
Okay, so then Business Sweden, a report on the government shutdown and the effects on the Swedish life science companies.
Yes.
And other things that you would like to add, that's fine.
Yes, thank you. So, in very timely news, as probably everybody saw, the government has reopened just last night. A deal had been struck, and of course, as we're probably all aware, the root cause of the shutdown was also disagreement on extending the Affordable Care Act, any tax credits and anything that helped people in the United States and over 24 million Americans pay for health insurance. And there was for a long time now, it's the longest shutdown in history because there was a long holdout on getting a resolution to this. Now this shutdown has ended. However, there hasn't been a resolution. So the only outcome now is that there is a promise to have a vote in December on whether the Affordable Care Act is going to be extended or not. So it's a little bit unclear whether that is going to happen. Now, what that means is there's a lot of uncertainty in the industry, which I think has been throughout these past month and this past year. So this is definitely contributing because there is an expectation and there's already an effect that premiums are rising for insurance. So what we already see both ourselves, but here in the US, but also we see through our customers is that premiums for 2026 are already increasing, and there's an expectation that they might increase as much as 75 to 100%. So they might double or even more in some expectations. It's a very unclear still because of course there is also going to be a vote, but there's not a lot of confidence yet here whether that is going to be extended. So this means that hospital budgets are likely getting tighter because there's more uninsured people is the expectation. So with these tighter budgets, there's just going to be, it's harder to have hospitals be interested in investments. So there have to be, from a company perspective, there have to be much more diligent pitches and a really clear, probably cost savings approach, when trying to pitch solutions to hospitals here. That's one side, but then of course also from just getting things approved now after this shutdown, that's another topic that we're looking at. So when it comes to the FDA or also when it comes to getting anything that's connected with the government, so the NIH grants, we just talked about NIH, but also other certifications through CMS. Everything is a bit delayed right now, and we had seen companies that had gotten in their FDA approval requests before the shutdown started, and then those requests were still processed, but then everything that happened during the shutdown had been stopped and nothing happened. So for now, it's probably prudent to just still wait a little bit if there is something you want to submit, because it's just not clear how quickly is everything going to be back up and running, and how quickly or are these processes going to be followed up on. So for now it's probably good to have a wait and see, because it's just open, so everybody is still unclear when is everything up and running or up to normal again, if there is then a normal in that sense. So those are some thoughts. Again, lots of services had been shut down, and it's also unclear, like telehealth or other services that had been covered through some of these government providers. So all of these systems, it's not clear yet, since it just happened, when they're going to be back up and running. So it's just something to monitor very closely. So yeah, we would wait for scheduling filings, just have a plan to bridge any funding that you might need from NIH or any other grants, because they might be paused, as you might have already noticed if you're affected, and just expecting still slower response times, because it is going to take a little bit to get people back that had not been working maybe, or furloughed for a while now. So yeah, those are some updates from the reopening of the government, I guess. And then we just wanted to say also a few words about the pharma industry and especially large pharma deals that had been struck with the government, and maybe also expectations for what's to come there. Or other, actually also still we wanted to also still note some outcomes from the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden administration that's actually also taking effect this month, which is not as big in the news. So, but overall, you're aware, I'm sure, that there are several global pharma companies that have struck some deals with the current U.S. administration, like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, and Novo Nordisk, also very recently in the past days. And those deals are essentially based on getting a break on tariffs for those companies for a commitment to making investments into US manufacturing, and also a commitment to reducing prices for certain drugs that are then going to go on a platform called Trump RX that's going to launch January 1st, 2026. So that has been an effort by the current US administration to reduce drug prices, since they are dramatically higher in the US than in other countries. So there has been a goal for this most favored nation pricing to adjust prices for certain drugs to prices in other countries in the developed world. And then we definitely see a big push right now for there are drugs in there, including also cancer drugs, for example, but there's definitely a very big push also publicity-wise towards GLP-1 drugs that are going to be reduced in price. And then in addition, and there is some criticism, and it's unclear yet how this is really directly affecting out-of-pocket costs for Americans. That is to be seen. And then what I wanted to note, just as a last point here, from still a result from the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden administration. So back in that act, there was a stipulation that Medicare would have a different, stronger negotiation power with drug makers directly. And this is now resulting in, by November 30th, in additional drugs that are going to be negotiated and reduced in price. It also includes GLP-1 drugs, but also includes drugs in diabetes and cancer care, for example. And that is just something that's maybe not as loudly communicated these days, but definitely also still a result, and something that is affecting here the healthcare system and out-of-pocket costs, which is something that is just looked at so closely right now because of what we said about the reopening of the government, and that insurance prices are going so high. So the cost factor is definitely just something that's watched very, very closely. Yes, so with that, those are some of my comments, but happy for anyone else to add on, and otherwise we could move on in the agenda.
Can I just add that I mentioned before the meeting started that I listened to the USA-podden, the US pod, which I guess it was from yesterday. So it was just talking about that and who actually won, the Democrats or the Republicans. And yeah, with this new voting they're going to have in December and so on. It was interesting, just relating to the shutdown and also to the talk about the healthcare costs. I would also like to ask you, Jessica, because now there's a lot of focus on drugs, and I know they are quite expensive in the US. But do you think it will spill over to medtech technology somehow as well, even though that's not as directly tied to the patients? But do you think it's going to be a same price pressure on medtech?
I mean, and I'm happy for Abigail to also jump in, but my initial comment would be there's not as much of a focus from the administration on this. So the drugs are definitely very much in focus right now, and also these big deals with these big drug makers. However, when it comes to medical devices, I think just the pressure on hospital systems, the strong price pressure because of these millions that are expected to be, or there is a fair chance that they are going to be uninsured, and then there is people that are uninsured that are putting price pressure or where hospitals are still supporting them. So I think that is going to have then this indirect effect that any purchasing decisions, there's a big price consideration. So yeah, so hospitals are going to look at that, but that's would be my.
Yeah, great. So any other? Oh yeah, Matthias, you would like to add something?
Yes, thank you, Anna. Just and Jessica, just a quick adding to medtech, where we might see price pressure is of course on the tariffs and the ongoing 232 investigation on the US side, so US Department of Commerce looking into to adding tariffs on medtech, and I'm not sure if Felinda or Annika, if you want to add anything on that, but that's it's not connected to the shutdown or the recent development, but rather to the trade and tariff policies from the US.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then it's on to the National Board of Trade.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
What a good transit we got from Matthias there. I actually have a few slides because this is the first time we are part of this forum. We also want to sort of take the time to introduce you a little bit to the National Board of Trade and what we at Kommerskollegium, our Swedish name, what we do and who we are. So I really hope I have the technology with me and that this will work. Let's see. Can you see the presentation fine?
Yep, looks good.
Thank you. So me and Annika, we are both from the National Board of Trade Sweden. We are Sweden's government agency for international trade, EU internal market and trade policy. We are an independent authority and we are sorted under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Sweden. We're not experts on life science or pharma, so we will go into this with a little bit of a broader perspective, looking at the US trade policy landscape as we observe it, and also to give a little bit more information on what we do to sort of try to help companies navigate the situation that we are currently in. We have quite a normative mission that we work with in these times. Our mission is to work towards free and open trade with transparent rules. And we are also Sweden's internal market authority responsible for EU trade. So we are also supposed to promote free movement within the EU internal market. So many of you probably recognize this picture, and this is how we observe US trade policy 2025 since Trump started his second presidency. We've seen a situation that has been highly unpredictable, decisions changing, taking turns from one day to another. We've seen a tariff policy that is unlike anything we've ever seen before, basically with quite high tariffs being imposed across many different products, being imposed at different rates towards different countries. And we've also seen an increase on threats of tariffs. We also see the increase of these 232 investigations that Matthias mentioned. And I think for you that are participating today, that the investigations of 232 on pharma and the 232 investigation on medtech is something that you should keep your eyes on and see what that may go, because we know that these investigations usually also lead to the introduction of new tariffs from the US administration. But something that we also see that has sort of been a mark for this administration is that they use trade policy as a tool to achieve other geopolitical goals and to try to promote other political interests. This became quite clear in the beginning when the tariffs towards Mexico and Canada were imposed with the background of the fentanyl crisis. So it's being used as sort of trying to push also results in other political areas. I'm not going to go through everything on this timeline, but this is more to sort of provide the picture of what has actually happened in the EU and US trade relationship during this year. We have some big marks. I need to mention the steel and aluminium tariffs that also affects many different industries. We have the agreement and deal between the EU and US, which has resulted in some lower tariffs for generic pharma or goods that are being used in the production of generic pharma. But we still have some concerns regarding like specific or patented pharma, and also medtech is not part of this deal. So the tariffs on, for example, lumber and furniture and on medium and heavy vehicles that were introduced this fall, despite the deal the EU has with the US, these 232 tariffs apply to goods being exported from the EU to the US. So what do we at the National Board of Trade do about this? We try, of course, to provide as much assistance as we can. We try to keep updated information on our webpage and in our newsletters. These are in Swedish, so they are you need someone that speaks Swedish, you need to put it into Google Translate in order to understand it, but we try to keep as much updated information as we can. Our communication department jokes about us being a news agency at times. We also, which Annika will talk a little bit more about, try to raise and aim to resolve barriers to trade that companies encounter and try to sort of work towards a long-term solution. And since this spring, we also have something that we call the US Tariff Task Force, or Tulljouren in Swedish, where we hands-on try to help Swedish companies with mainly information on the latest US trade policy updates, and we try to sort of assist in navigating the current trade policy landscape. I want to be clear that the only authority that has the mandate to sort of decide what tariff that should be taken out or can give a binding decision is the CBP, because they are it's under American law. But we always try to guide and navigate as far as we can from our side. So if you encounter any issue, please reach out to us. You can reach us on phone or you can reach us via email. And the easiest way to find us is via our webpage. So here is how our webpage look and how we try to sort of gather the information that we have. For those that are curious about also taking part of analysis on the EU-US trade relationship, we have some statistics, we do simulations on what may happen if the current situation continues. Please look into our webpage and see, and take part of that information. And I just wanted to provide you with a little bit of examples of questions that we can help with and that we usually receive. So it's what tariffs do apply to my product? This is of course different depending on the product that is on hand. Will there be more tariffs? We try to navigate this as far as we can in relation to ongoing 232 investigations and such. Where can I find information? Trying to sort of provide the link to CBP guidance documents and such. We get a lot of questions on Incoterms, so who pays the tariff? We get a lot of questions on rules of origin, especially related to Chinese inputs. And the final question is sort of to illustrate that very many products that are being exported from the EU to the US do contain steel or aluminium and are also covered by the extensive scope of the current 232 tariff. So we also receive many questions on that. And Annika, aren't you quite familiar with these steel and aluminium tariffs as well from the MACI?
Well, yes, I've come across them actually. I work with barriers to trade here at the National Board of Trade, and I'm also the Swedish representative in the European Commission's Market Access Advisory Committee, MAC. And the different members in this committee take part, the member states take part, and also industry organizations at EU level. And for your companies, the MedTech Europe and COSIR both represent the interest of the MedTech industry in MAC. And then FPA, the pharmaceutical industry. We meet once a month and have the possibility to try to, in a way, influence the Commission on what trade barriers to prioritize by mentioning the ones that are important to us and our companies. Usually 2 countries are covered every month, and in September, the US was on the agenda for our meeting. The main focus at the meetings are the barriers analyzed, registered, and listed in the Commission's own database, Access to Markets. The Access to Markets database, as you can see here, is very useful when you want to find out information about requirements and conditions for imports and exports between EU member states and most of the important third countries. All you need is your product's HS code, the name of the exporting country and of the importing country, and you use My Trade Assistant. It's the yellow field here on the screen. And you can find out information about the tariffs, what documents are needed, product requirements, other requirements, taxation, etc. And we use it a lot here at the National Board of Trade, especially now with all the tariff changes in the US. And this is further down on the web page the Commission has, the Access to Markets web page. And in the upper blue field, you can see the registered barriers to trade, where you can find them. And it's the registered barriers to trade that the European Commission are working with, trying to solve. And you just click the existing trade barriers button and you will find them. And here is I've written all of these barriers. There are 24 barriers registered for the US. And as I mentioned earlier, we discussed these barriers for US at our meeting with the Market Access Advisory Committee in September. And the member states and industry organizations pointed out which US barriers that affected their companies. And one of them, well, the most important one in a way, which was raised by most member states at the meeting, was the Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminium imports. And as you know, it was reactivated by the US in March this year with a 25% tariff and then increased to 50% in June. And also the US expanded the scope of the derivative products in August. This is a big problem, not only the level of the tariffs, also it implies a lot of administrative work. I believe it's a problem also in your sector. Then next in order was the barrier Buy American concerning public procurement, where the US have domestic content requirements for its public procurement. This is in order to boost their domestic production. Then, after that, the member states raised some sanitary and phytosanitary barriers for agricultural products, but also the Inflation Reduction Act. This time it was a special situation due to Trump's tariff policies, so there was actually little room for any feedback from the Commission on these barriers. So it was plenty about the tariffs that day. But the barriers that Sweden raised were the steel and aluminium tariffs, of course, the Buy American, Inflation Reduction Act, but then also Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, Food Safety Systems Recognition, and intellectual property rights, the inadequate protection of GIs. There are, of course, many other barriers that are not on the list, but are still problematic for many companies. The Commission and its EU delegation is our best tool when it comes to solving trade barriers. Generally, the Commission only works with barriers when they have received a formal complaint. So if you're badly affected by a barrier that's not on this list, you, or for example, your trade organization, can make a formal complaint to the Commission. You find the so-called single entry point at the Access to Markets webpage. You can see it in the top right corner there. The team at DG Trade at the Commission welcome contacts, also informal ones, and are ready to discuss a possible complaint. You're also welcome to contact us at the National Board of Trade. If you make a complaint, as it is confidential who makes the complaint to the European Commission, please let us know so we can follow up on your complaint and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Matthias, a comment, perhaps?
Yeah, a comment, not a question. No, just to thank you so much, Annika and Felinda. I think that's very, very useful. And just for everyone's information, we, depending a bit on your own situation, and it could vary very much between the different companies and the different products and services that you sell. We have created a platform here to sort of work more in detail around your situation on tariffs, and it's particularly to inform small and medium-sized companies where Business Sweden, the embassy, and with some input and information from National Board of Trade here in the US. So if you are present or your product is present on the US market and you have some particular issue on the tariff or anything related to that on the US market as of now, that we are providing a special sort of service because of times are tricky right now. So we can share more information about that. I just wanted to add that, and thank you very much.
Great. And I think Business Sweden wants to add on that SME platform as well.
Yes, so we do have a tariff program that Matthias brought up as well, but I also wanted to bring up a few other programs we have for SMEs within the life science vertical itself. So as it was alluded to earlier in this call, we will be having a Team Sweden event at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference happening in San Francisco. That's taking place January 12th to the 15th, 2026. And as you all may know, this is one of the biggest investor conferences for life science globally. So good for everyone to know here that we'll be hosting our Team Sweden networking breakfast on Monday, January 12th. And everyone is invited to, of course, come if you are going to be at JP Morgan that week. So please go ahead and reach out to myself. I'd be happy to send you more information on that. And good to know about JP Morgan. It really is, the epicenter of the industry that week, not only for US stakeholders, but also globally. So even if you're not invited to the JP Morgan conference, it's still very beneficial to actually go and attend. There's many peripheral events, and we're also supporting companies to understand how can you really maximize your time time that week what other events are going on, because it really is a key event for life science, but also for investment if that is what you're going after too. Also in 2026, I can share that Team Sweden will have a presence at Bio International. That's going to be held in San Diego, California. That's June 22nd to June 25th, 2026. So a little bit after midsummer there. So that is one of the world's leading partnering events for biotechnology. So we're excited to share that we're going to have a Team Sweden pavilion as well as a physical presence there. There'll be various speaker programs. So we're just sharing that we're going to be starting that, and we'll likely do a bigger outreach probably early in January to share more about this exciting opportunity. We also have our life science platform ongoing, and this is with us. This is with the consulates in the U.S. and as well as the embassy, where we shape various activities that are relevant for Swedish SMEs. We're currently planning our activities for 2026. So if there's anything that you would like to see for next year, we'd be happy to take your input. We've organized various, roundtables on certain policy topics around, AI and oncology, for example. We've also discussed, maybe doing something when it comes to a hospital visit, to meeting with key opinion leaders. It's really open to hearing how best we can support you in the U.S. market as things continue to develop rapidly here. But let me know if anyone's interested in joining or giving input. My name is Abigail Richardson, and I'm with Business Sweden. Thank you so much.
Maybe you can share your email address in the chat.
Absolutely. Good point. I will put that in shortly. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, so we also wanted to hear from the audience what your issues are, what your challenges are, or what your just question marks are for the US market. But while you're thinking about that, I wanted to ask Felinda, so who pays the tariffs actually?
I mean, it's always a case to case. For companies in practice, it's all about the Incoterms. It's about, have you decided on who's supposed to pay the tariffs? I mean, the baseline is that the importer pays the tariff. And also, if you look at this, we do simulations on like high level, how will the economy be affected, who will pay the most, and looking at the results from those shows that it will be US companies that are paying these tariffs that are coming into, because you need to pay tariffs for the inputs that you then use for your exports. So you're being hit by the tariffs in that way, like a double way.
Yeah, so both for exports and imports then from US companies. Yeah, I think we mentioned that in our last market webinar in June, that I'm surprised that it hasn't already started showing in the US economy that products are, or with inflation, that products are getting more expensive in the US. But yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe there's some kind of secret sauce that Trump has cooked. I don't know.
I mean, from our side also, we see that that we haven't had the tariffs for that long yet.
No,
there's also a little bit of a period before it starts to show as well.
Yeah, so are there any issues to be brought up from the audience, or questions, or what? It would just be good for us to know what your main challenges are. So of course you can talk to any of us separately, but if you have something that you would like to share, that you think maybe more companies face the same kind of problem, it would be great for us to hear it. Yes, Christine, would you like to say it out loud?
Sure, I can try. I apologize when my voice is coming and going.
Yeah.
I'm not so well today. But my question is if we've seen any changes on how the US FDA is interacting with non-US companies as the bringers for approvals, or in dialogue with the FDA, if they're more responsive to US companies than to non-US companies, or if we're seeing any differences there.
I'm happy to jump in just from my conversations. We've not seen any, I guess, discrimination between U.S. and non-U.S. companies. I was talking with a company a couple weeks ago that was a part of the FDA process, as Jessica alluded to, and of course they got their submission before the government shutdown, so they were able to move through that process. But we've not seen any, any favoritism so far.
That's good to hear. Yeah, any other? I know there are some companies in this EU project Health 321 that are just now looking or have been looking for some time towards the US. So this is your chance as well to get some insights. Okay, but I think people are a little bit, maybe it's difficult to ask those questions out loud to everyone as well. But so if we don't have any more questions, then I think we can just round off the meeting. Are there any last comments from Team Sweden? How can we learn more about this SME platform? Is there like a website, or do we just contact?
Feel free to reach out to myself about the activities I mentioned. I'd be happy to share more information. And as I can also put you in touch with our colleague Felicia, who's leading our tariff program as well that Matthias mentioned. So please feel free to reach out. We can put you in the right place.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, we got a question here. If are there ways to follow up after the seminar? And I guess you can just contact any of us, and I can send out well, I guess you will find them in the link or in the invitation to this webinar as well. So feel free to email. And Christine, you had.
I was going to say, if no one else has another question, I'm happy to ask a second one, but
yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. I don't know if we're also seeing a difference in a perception of how U.S. companies are working or licensing technology, or are they choosing sort of U.S. technologies over international technologies or Swedish technologies? Maybe in this case, I'm asking specifically, but are we seeing any differences in how U.S. companies are sourcing? Well, whether it's innovation or products, I guess.
Does anyone have some insights into that?
We have
I'm
not
happy.
looked into it from our side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we looked into it in depth from our side, but I think when it comes to any kind of services, we haven't seen a pullback at this point. I think when it comes to anything that's manufactured, there maybe has been more of a preference for products and solutions that are actually produced in the U.S. just due to the tariffs. We have seen some favoritism there, but of course, when it comes to a pure technology solution, we haven't seen that, at least from Business Sweden side.
Thanks.
Yeah, there we got the email addresses to Felinda and Annika as well, and the website, and of course the Access to Markets website of the EU Commission. I think you can find that by Googling as well. It's another good resource. And Lotta, we should look through our notes from that meeting at the NIH and see what links we can share from there that could be relevant as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, great. But thanks a lot, everyone, for joining and for presenting and sharing your insights. And this is a changing environment, so we will be back, but maybe not before Christmas. We'll see if something big happens, maybe after that December voting. But probably we'll be back in this format after New Year's. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.